The day my mother remarried was a major turning point in my life. I was about 8 years old. After my mother and stepfather married, we moved into his house, which was located on 20 acres of land. The house was quiet, just the three of us and our two large dogs. I lived there for 14 years, and during that time, many strange things happened. But there was one Christmas Eve that I will never forget. I was about 10 years old, and although I don't remember my exact age, I'm sure it was the year I received the remote control truck I had long wanted. Our house was decorated with lights and wreaths for the holidays. However, on Christmas Eve, it was so quiet that I could hear the creaking of the wooden floors. It all started when I woke up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. My room was right at the corner of the hallway, a few steps away from the bathroom. From the hallway, you could see straight into the living room, where the Christmas tree was. Especially on Christmas Eve, the lights of the tree would be on all night. I remember when I walked out of the room, the sparkling lights from the Christmas tree caught my eye. I thought I saw the toy truck among the pile of presents, but because I urgently needed to go to the bathroom, I didn't stop to check. While I was in the bathroom, I couldn't stop thinking about the pile of presents under the tree. After I finished, I turned back to look at the tree again. At that moment, I saw a strange figure. Standing right in the doorway between the hallway and the living room was the shadow of a boy. He was about my age based on his height. He had his back to me, his left hand holding onto the doorframe, standing on his tiptoes to look at the pile of presents. In his right hand, he held a red lollipop. His entire body seemed to be immersed in darkness. Only the light from the Christmas tree made his figure even more eerie. I stood still in the bathroom, looking at the boy curiously, but also a little scared. I stepped closer to the bathroom door, to the point where I could reach out and touch him. I was about to ask who he was, but before I could say anything, he slowly lowered his legs and turned towards me. The moment he started to turn around, a chill ran down my spine. My heart pounded, and I saw a strange smile appear on his face. It wasn't a normal smile. It was so distorted and scary that I wanted to scream. When the boy was almost completely turned towards me, my mother suddenly opened the bedroom door and asked me if I was okay. I was startled, turning my head towards her for just a split second. When I looked back, the boy's figure had disappeared. I panicked and pointed to the living room, but my mother just laughed, thinking that I was sneaking out to see the gift. She took me to bed and patted me to sleep. The next morning, I did receive the remote control truck that I had been wishing for, but the image of the boy and the terrifying feeling that night still haunted me. It was not until several years later, when I recalled and told my mother about it, that she just sighed and said that in that house, she had also witnessed many strange things. Today started out like any other day, but it quickly turned into a terrifying experience that I will never forget. It happened at a local mall in Northern Virginia, where I went with my sister to help her finish her Christmas shopping. My sister's a petite woman, and she often attracts stares from people around her. I decided to go with her for two reasons. First, I wanted to ensure her safety, and second, she needed help choosing a gift for me. We went to a few stores like Hot Topic and American Eagle, but still couldn't find anything suitable. While wandering around for ideas, we decided to stop by Spencer's, which usually has vintage items and interesting t-shirts. We both walked into the store, heading to the back section where many of the t-shirts were displayed. While I was looking for a suitable shirt, a man appeared. He looked to be in his 30s or 40s with short hair, a long goatee, and average height. At first, I didn't pay much attention to him, thinking he was just an ordinary customer. He approached the shelf near us, and after a few seconds of silence, he said, "This store has a lot of interesting things, huh?" I just nodded slightly and continued looking at the shirts. But then I noticed something strange. Instead of paying attention to the items, his eyes kept glancing at me and my sister. A feeling of unease began to grow in me. As we moved to another area of the store, he followed, always keeping a close distance. His eyes never left us, making us both feel uncomfortable. I glanced at my sister, and she also realized something was wrong. In a whisper, she asked me, "Are you okay? Can we leave?" I nodded and headed towards the exit, where the staff and other customers were. As we walked, I heard him call from behind, "Hey!" I didn't want to answer, but curiosity made me turn around. He was standing there, his hand outstretched as if to shake my hand. I didn't understand what he wanted, so I just asked, "What do you want?" He replied, "I just wanted to shake your hand. It's nice to meet you." His answer made me shiver. We had never talked or known each other before, so why would he say that? I tried to stay calm, saying briefly, "No, thank you." He was clearly not satisfied with my answer, so he shouted, "Okay, you rude guy." I turned back to look at my sister and signaled her to continue walking. He was still standing there, not moving, but I couldn't tell if he was giving up. As we walked out of the store, I kept glancing around to make sure he wasn't following. We quickly walked into another store to calm down. My sister asked, "What just happened?" I told her everything, and she couldn't help but shiver. We left the mall shortly after, but all the way home, I couldn't stop thinking about how much worse things could have been. It was a reminder that, in situations like these, it's incredibly important to listen to your instincts and stay alert. This story happened 4 years ago, when I was 8 months pregnant. At that time, my belly was already big enough for everyone to realize that I was about to welcome a baby. It was around Christmas time, and like everyone else, I was busy shopping. That evening, I went to the local shopping mall to buy the last gifts. When I finished everything, the clock struck 9 p.m. The atmosphere around was quite deserted and cold, but I didn't care much. I just wanted to get home quickly. When I walked out of the shopping mall, I saw a man standing right in the middle of the small path leading to the parking lot. What confused me was that he didn't look around. He just stared at me. His eyes were cold and full of confusion, making me shiver. I quickly turned away and continued walking, trying to act normal. At the same time, 2 other men walked past him into the mall, but strangely, he paid no attention to them, his eyes still fixed on me. As I got closer, he started walking toward me. His voice rang out, "Excuse me, could you help me?" Growing up in the South, I was taught to be polite to everyone, but my intuition told me that something was wrong. I stopped, keeping a safe distance, and asked, "What do you need?" He glanced around furtively, then said, "I think my car battery is dead. Can you help me jumpstart my car?" A series of questions ran through my mind. Why would he choose a pregnant woman to ask for help when only a few minutes earlier 2 men had passed by? It made absolutely no sense. I shook my head, politely refusing. "Sorry, I can't help you." Then I turned around and walked faster, hoping he would let me go. But no, I could still feel his eyes on me. From the corner of my eye, I saw him continuing to walk towards me. His voice rang out again, this time a bit more harshly. "You really aren't going to help me? I just need a push." I didn't answer, just lowered my head and walked faster. I had the keys ready in my hand, trying to calm down and get to my truck. But as I opened the car door, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. Turn around, I saw him almost running towards me. My hands were shaking as I tried to put the keys in the lock, but I couldn't get them to go. And then he came right up to the car door, banged on the glass and shouted, "Open the door! Just help me a little!" I panicked, my heart pounding. His arm pulled hard on the door handle, trying to open the car door. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. In that moment, my self-defense instincts kicked in. I remembered the self-defense lessons I had taken. I rolled down the window a little, looked him straight in the eye and shouted, "I'm warning you, stop right now. Don't follow me anymore." The air seemed to freeze. His eyes changed, from angry to annoyed and a little surprised. Finally, he turned and walked away without saying another word. I sat still in the car, trying to take deep breaths to calm myself. Everything seemed safe, but I couldn't leave right away. My hands were still shaking, and my mind was filled with terrifying images of what could have happened. That night, I couldn't sleep. The incident is a powerful reminder that, while we always try to be polite and kind, in some situations, listening to our instincts and protecting ourselves is the most important thing. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, a strange event happened on Christmas Eve that I will never forget. Like many other children at that age, I believed in Santa Claus. I was both excited and nervous as I imagined Santa Claus coming to my house, quietly leaving presents under the Christmas tree. That night I lay in bed, trying to close my eyes to sleep, but my little heart was pounding with excitement. After a while of tossing and turning, I finally fell asleep. My sleep did not last long. I was suddenly awakened by a very gentle sound, like footsteps on the wooden floor in the room. Immediately, I thought of Santa Claus. It must be him, I thought to myself, but at the same time, a strange fear came over me. I did not dare to turn my head or open my eyes for fear of ruining the miracle or making Santa Claus angry and leave. Curiosity won out, though. I opened one eye, just a little, and the sight before me froze me. Standing right next to my bed was a tall shadow, at least 1.80 meters tall. Its shape resembled a person, but its body was completely dark, as if it were made of solid darkness. What was terrifying was that the shadow was darker than the room, as if it was sucking all the light around it. I couldn't see its face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. But the shape of its head, arms, torso, and legs were very clear. My heart stopped, and my body froze with fear. Is that Santa Claus? I asked myself, trying to calm myself. But deep down, I knew that what was in front of me was not the kind old man carrying gifts. The shadow began to move. It took a few slow steps, then stopped, leaning towards me, as if observing me. The distance was only a few steps, and I could clearly feel that it was looking at me, even though there were no eyes. The feeling of being watched by someone enveloped me, cold and suffocating. I closed my eyes tightly, hoping that it would disappear. Time seemed to stop. Each second passed slowly, and I did not dare to move even a little. After a while, I slowly opened my eyes. The room was empty. The shadow was no longer there. The strange thing was, although I had clearly heard the footsteps before, there was no sound when it left. No sound of the door opening, no sound of the wooden floor creaking. The feeling of fear still surrounded me. I did not dare to get out of bed or turn on the light. I lay there, eyes wide open, waiting for the light of Christmas morning to feel safer. The next morning, as my family gathered around the Christmas tree, I mustered up the courage to ask my mother, "Mom, did you hear Santa Claus come into my room last night?" She looked at me for a moment, a little confused, then smiled brightly. "He came. You must have been good and got presents." She must have thought I was just imagining things or dreaming, but I knew what I saw wasn't a dream. It was all too real, from the sounds, the feelings, to the terrifying presence of that dark figure. I grew up in an old house where many other creepy things had happened, but that mysterious figure on Christmas Eve was the one that haunted me the most. Some people say that places filled with strong emotions, excitement, or energy will attract spirits or mysterious entities. And if that's true, then perhaps the excitement of that Christmas Eve had unintentionally invited an uninvited guest into my room.